Hey, I got it faster that time. Hey, all, how you doing? So I've been thinking a lot about this whole time frame we've been in lockdown. It's been about a year now. And in that year, a lot of things have happened on a personal level for many, many people. From losing jobs to losing small businesses to losing people in our lives. Whether it be from our political opinions, or from the virus, or just from people who are, normally going to pass from our lives, which I've had a couple of those as well. But I don't like to dwell in that frame of mind of loss. What have we gained? If you've had to stay home from work when you worked 7 days a week, 6 days a week, 5 days a week, and every day was a process, and believe me, I've lived the process. I've lived double the process in my past. I own my own business, and I used to work both night and day shifts, mixing them up with each other, sometimes consecutively, just to be able to pay my bills and keep my household running and my business running. The rat race. Never really having time for things that I would enjoy doing or want to do. Or just picking up a book and reading it for a few minutes. Those are the things that, if you've ever had long periods of time in your life where you looked for things to do to occupy your time, hopefully you found things that were productive and good for you. But I got thinking about this. So you've got millions, tens of millions of people who are basically either out of work or working from home. And people who have run businesses that have kept them going for 80 hours a week, who can't run their businesses. And yes, there is stress in that. Very much so. There's no doubt. But I know a lot of people who have actually had time on their hands to do things that they've never gotten to do before. Things they dreamt of doing when they retired. Anything from exploring one's own spirituality to reading the book you had on your shelf for 2 or 3 years, looking at it and going, nope, I'll dust that again, but you never pick up. Or sitting down at your computer and writing that novel that you always wanted to write. Or getting creative and creating a new song or a poem. Or picking up an old hobby, woodworking, jewelry making, painting, whatever. Or even the fact that being short on normal supplies made you creative. You had to learn to cook at home better. You had perhaps to learn to can or grow a garden. You had time to research how to be more efficient and less wasteful, more thrifty, more self-sufficient, more productive in different ways. For instance, I've known a couple people who normally wouldn't take the time to work on their own vehicle because even though they have the skill to be able to do so, they didn't have the time, and they would much rather just give somebody else money to do it. But they've had to pick up the tools and go, I can do this myself. And it brings back a certain confidence that sometimes gets forgotten in the daily rat race. To prove to yourself that I do have the skill to do this. It's an interesting dynamic we've had over the last year. Or perhaps you've gotten to know your children again. You know, if you work 40 hours a week and they're at school for basically the same time, you only have a couple hours in the evening, and it's always rushed rather, by dinner being prepared, and you're getting everybody cleaned up, and making sure everybody's got their schoolwork done, and getting everyone off to bed. You get in a routine, and you really don't have time for spending time together, enjoying each other's company, learning, sharing experiences, sharing a hobby with your child. A lot of that stuff has gone by the wayside with the way we run our society. I am very, very lucky to have grown up in a household where both my parents and my father's parents, my grandparents on my dad's side, were basically around 24/7. And being an only child, I was with either one or the other or both of them at all times through my childhood. I mean, yes, I went to school, but I had 4 adults to learn from, to talk to do things with. My grandmother and I used to go on bike rides together every day after school. My grandfather and I used to have long conversations and go through his old coin collection and talk about the past. And he would tell me stories. My father taught me about music and astronomy and astrology and psychic ability and meditation and yoga and health food and so much more. And my mother taught me how to be proud of what I do and to be responsible and to care about being, caring for myself, taking care of myself, making sure that I wore clothing that wasn't torn up and shredded, and fashion, and how to present yourself to become a business person, how to put yourself out there in the public. And my grandparents taught me how to run a small business and set me up with my first real small business at the age of 14. Just an amazing time to have your parents around, your grandparents around to teach you things. Both my grandmother and my mother used to make up stories. My grandmother's were about the Chesapeake Bay ponies and mermaids, and my mother's were about a little mouse named Rosebud. And we would travel in the summers, and they would spend time with me. Those moments that you don't usually get in this rat race become very special. Time spent with your loved ones, or time spent in meditation, or prayer, or taking the time to do some physical activity that you just never get around to doing, or going outside and actually getting to garden, getting to put flower beds in, or rake up that yard that you never have time for. Spend some time outside with your dog in the garden, digging, all these things that people don't get to do a lot of times. And I think it has awakened a lot of people. It has given people opportunity to get to know the facts that they actually like doing things. They actually have interests, and there are many people out there who spent this year filling their head with as much data and information as they possibly can about every topic they were ever interested in, that they never had time to look at. Or fighting politically, or fighting for the children, or any numerous amount of things that they've never had time for. I'm not saying that COVID was a blessing. Not really. But I'm also not saying that every effect of the situation of the lockdown has been a bad one. Yes, some people have dealt with depression. Some people have been in a poor state of mind because of this. The isolation sometimes is too much for people. But sometimes isolation is what we need. Sometimes we need to go inside and become introspective, get to know who we are, take a look at ourselves, our lives, what's going on around us, and not just go mechanically through the day, week after week, month after month, year after year. I would love to hear stories of anyone whose life has been altered in this kind of manner by this COVID lockdown. I'm trying to figure out how to do live video chats on here from my phone. So if anyone has any ideas and wants to leave some comments on how that's done from a cell phone with either a Facebook chat or Skype or something like that, and how I'd go live to YouTube, or we could pre-record it for that matter. But I would love to hear some stories about things that you found out about yourself, about your family history perhaps even, or what kind of inspirational thing you've done with your life in the last year that you never would have been able to do had we not been in this lockdown situation. Alright, y'all. I'm gonna get off here. I've babbled long enough. And I think I'm gonna go play my keyboard for a little while. Y'all have a great day, and take care of each other.